not hear any of the music. But hey, it's Monday evening in the city.
Yes. How are
So,
you, DJ LeRoy?
not bad, not bad. So literally, our intro sounded like it was a silent assassin. What do you think, man?
I heard it fine.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And you know what? And I hear you fine.
All right. So anyway, we're going to be talking about technology today, which is going to be interesting because technology can be a cruel friend sometimes, a trickster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah.
Because sure enough, Night Watchman, I thought for a second there I was being technology challenged. What do you think, man?
Well, hey, we all get technology challenged at some point. So, that's the nature of the beast. But we're going to talk about the opportunities that come from technology today. And we have a really great crew of people who are going to talk about it. So if you'd like to start doing some of the introductions, let's get this party started.
Well, I think the person for me who got it popping is somebody that I've cycled with numerous times. He is a lawyer by training, but you know what? He's also a volunteer of a company that he turned me on to, and I'm really, really so impressed. And that is none other than Ian Matthews. Bring him out.
Hey there.
Ian,
Hey, Ian, how are you?
Good to
good
see you
evening,
again,
my
Curtis.
brother. You too, man. You too. All right.
Yeah.
And also, I got to say, this next gentleman coming out, this is somebody who I say who has the passion, he has the fire, and maybe it has to do with the fact that he's way younger than us. And that, of course, is Daniel Heredia. Daniel, come on out, man.
How y'all doing?
Maybe
Good,
he's way
man.
younger than you, man. I'm younger than you are.
See, why are we starting this already? Why? then the one, the only, the person who put NYC MESH on the map, Mr. Brian Hall. Bring him out.
Hey.
Brian.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good. All right. So, you know what? I think this guy, he was trying to give us a little slip up here, man. But I hear that he's in the studio, so we need to bring him out. And that, of course, is none other than Silicon Harlem's founder, Mr. Clayton Banks. Bring him out. Clayton.
Thank you, Curtis. I thought for when you were introducing Danielle, I thought you were talking to me. I was getting all spruced up and ready to go.
Yeah, well.
It's a pleasure to be with you and Bob. You guys are doing great work for the community and for Upper Manhattan and certainly for all of New York City. So it's always great to have this time with you, and certainly all the rest of the speakers who I have had some level of connection, and certainly with Brian. And it's just great to see all of us together doing something good.
Absolutely.
It's like the Harlem Tech Avengers.
And beyond.
Assemble.
And beyond. Yes. All right.
So Bob, because you are one of these techies yourself, you said that you wanted to actually start off some stuff. So let's see it, buddy.
Well, I think we want to start off just by talking to our audience about what is a mesh network, because I don't think, everybody is familiar with that term. So maybe I'll ask Brian if you can start off and just tell us a little bit about what mesh networks are and why they're important to this community as well as others.
Yeah, it's a little bit controversial, the whole idea of mesh, and people have different ideas of defining it. Like originally we started out with the routers on top of rooftops all meshed to each other and completely decentralized, and that works up to about 30 nodes, but it doesn't scale. So now we're more of a hybrid of traditional wireless and mesh for just a couple of block radius. So we're a mixture of technologies. We're very pragmatic about the way we do things. But the important thing about us is we're a community network and volunteer run.
Well, speaking of which, so Ian, how did you get hooked up here?
I was standing at a traffic light.
Were you on your bike or not? What's up?
Yeah, I was actually. I was waiting for the light to change, and on the pole was a flyer for NYC MESH, and I thought that's cool. So I reached out to Brian, and next thing you know, I'm installing one of those decentralized nodes he talked about on my rooftop.
Oh man, oh man. So Night Watchman, do note that poles are used for things other than dancing. You notice that, right? So
Why are you pulling me into that one?
I got you. But Daniel, now you have been a whirlwind so far, 200. But let's say, tell me about the installation process. Simple or what?
It's very simple usually. Once the person, usually once they've confirmed that they're able to get on the roof, and really we ask that most people have roof access, namely because it helps to be able to see where you're connecting to easier to get a better connection. Some Windows installs are possible, but we always prefer the roof. And once we have access and we can see it, once you could see where you're trying to connect to, usually installation process takes 1, 2 hours, 3 hours tops if you're connecting most apartments in the building. So it's really a painless process.
Nice, nice. Clayton, I got to say that one of the things that certainly you exposed, because you were talking about this early before anybody else, and that was literally the lack of broadband in communities like Harlem and beyond, okay? And so certainly with the lockdown and COVID, it has exposed this. So tell me, Silicon Harlem on the forefront of this bad boy, how's it been going? Oh, Clayton, you're on mute.
I'm glad that you couched it that way, because everyone on this call, particularly, Brian and Ian and so forth, this isn't an overnight thing. We've been at this for some time. And from my perspective, I think it's the greatest moment right now in our lifetime when we have the ability to completely do, almost like software, do a complete upgrade of our cities, of our states, and of our countries. It's a worldwide movement right now to upgrade the entire, infrastructure of every square foot on the planet. And that doesn't happen very often. It takes 100 years for that to happen. So here we are. And as much as we've shared many, many years that 40% of people in Upper Manhattan do not have internet in the home, hello, that's a problem. People would be appalled when I would share those statistics, but not much activity. When the pandemic came, it not only was important to hear, but it was now putting the resources behind it to try to make sure we don't have people unconnected. We have to have connected in the home. And a lot of us have been doing it for a long time. I'm a big fan of what NYC MESH has been doing it way before the pandemic. And the whole idea was everyone needs a connection, and more importantly, doesn't need the cost that the incumbents have done in the traditionally. So I think to your question, Curtis, is that we're at the greatest moments we have to, level the playing field, create the equity that we need. It makes everything much better when we're seeing some of the high levels of crime and even more dramatic crime. Some of it's due to the fact that people don't have access and exposure. So the internet now is that, a key into opportunity. And if the government is going to move most of their things onto the internet, there's a citizenship issue here. If you're not online, you can't be a citizen. So we got
basic human right.
Exactly. So we're still got a long way to go. But right now, with the infrastructure bill that's been passed, the state now is putting together monies. The city is putting together the money, and even local folks are all understanding what needs to happen. So it's the greatest time we've ever had.
So, Clayton, I want you to talk a little bit about during the pandemic. One of the big exposures we saw was when the city tried to shift to remote learning, and that really had a lot of problems with it. And I know that you and Silicon Harlem really jumped in to try to address that. Can you talk to us a little bit about that process and where is it now? Have we improved it at all? And where are we with regard to that?
Well, it's a great question, Bob, and a great topic. what we saw, what we figured out, and we've known this for some time, but what was really revealed during that time where we started to everybody going remote, but particularly with kids, that there's a three-legged stool here. There's a three-legged stool. You need the internet, you need a device, and in some ways you need to, self-learn on how to become more savvy with technology in order to keep up with the apps and everything else that are coming your way. So when we saw this pandemic happen, and we knew some people didn't have the internet, we needed to get out and start making those homes have internet. Once we did that, we figured out some people didn't have a computer. So if you give them the internet and they don't have a computer, what's the point, right? So what we did is, in working with the chamber and you guys, we started to get all types of donations for devices. So we started deploying those devices all across Upper Manhattan. And that helped bridge the gap. But it turned out even teachers didn't have the infrastructure to do the kind of remote learning that needed to go down. So it's still a struggle, it's still a challenge, but we have learned over the last couple of years how important it was to make sure every family has a computer in the home. Everyone must have, obviously, a connection, and certainly constantly give people more digital literacy. All of us, you and me and everybody, always needs to be improving their digital literacy. But for those who haven't even had the internet or a computer, it's even more vital. So yes, the pandemic has helped us move. The needle has moved, Bob. More and more people are embracing it. There's no question that it's what we call the next normal. It's not new. There's always an evolution. So it's a next normal where we are now hybrid, sometimes in person, sometimes remote. We ought to constantly look at how do we improve the technology. One, making it easy. Two, making it much more personable and humanized. That's the real challenge we have moving forward, is to ensure that the infrastructure almost disappears. It's not about, oh, this is technology, this is a device. It's just natural, right? So that is the next challenge that we have.
Gotcha. I got to say now, certainly we know that government leaders, some embrace technology, some are, so with it. Would you say that, let's say under Bloomberg, I know he's definitely one of these guys who loves the data, loves, technology, moving the needle. How was anybody weigh in terms of the relationship with the municipality, with New York City under Bloomberg, de Blasio, and now, of course, we have Adams, and that's yet to be revealed. Anybody?
I'm happy to go first.
Go ahead.
Very quickly. So during the Bloomberg era, which was a nice, interesting administration, and one of the things we were able to talk with Bloomberg about was the infrastructure that we're seeing now with outdoor network, right? So the Link NYC project started under his administration and got a little further with de Blasio. But the idea of embracing this idea that outdoor network was important, similar to what NYC MESH has done as well, is right, indoor and outdoor. I thought that was a big move. It got the attention of a lot of people to say, oh, internet's important, even if it's outside. It's like, okay. So that what actually helped a lot of us who've been in the business that are saying the same thing. Why can't we leverage the city in and of itself to provide connectivity? And those kiosks are still, to this day, in some ways, as strong as any network in the country, right? So if you are near one of those Link NYCs, you could be sitting in a restaurant and getting almost a gigabit of speed. restaurant ought to cut off their subscription, man. So when de Blasio came in, one of the things he realized, and we invited him to a variety of things, his projection was, we want to have everyone connected by 2025. He had made that comment in around 2016, 17. And we took it very seriously, Silicon Hall. We were like, okay, let's do this. And unfortunately, we didn't get the resources. The city wasn't able to get the resources to do universal broadband. But what was able to do in his administration was to put together what's called the Internet Master Plan. which all of us on this call are familiar with. For the audience, the Internet Master Plan was a way to look at universal broadband to make sure everyone has it. That particular move and project is still in place, and I had the great honor to be on the transition team for Adams as we moved to Adams. And the question was, will Adams continue the Internet Master Plan or change and do something else? Up to this point, he's embraced it. And so I feel very strong that all the work we've been doing is going to continue. And by 2025, in fact, as long as I'm still around, we're going to make sure everyone is connected.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's good to hear, because there have been times, and Daniel and I have an example in Brooklyn where the principal of a school got so frustrated and it was just taking so long to get this in place that she actually invited us onto her rooftop, and we're providing service to that community as a result of the principal just sort of taking things into her own hands in that sort of decentralized technology way. So hopefully it's ground up as well as top down.
Well, to your point, Ian, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care how stuff gets done, long as everyone's connected. See, the goal here is really just to make sure everyone's connected. Imagine not being connected, like we couldn't even talk to each other right now. So we've got to do that. And the business side of this, the cultural side of this, all things are impacted by technology. So whether you're getting it from a rooftop, or you're getting it from a basement, or you're getting it from the street that gets into your home, it's just vital that we just all come together and say, let's just make sure everyone's connected. At the end of the day, it's going to be much more utilized, right? So that's more a utility approach. And that's why, and Brian knows I've always gone to, their meetups and everything else. One of the key things is this wasn't about a business plan. This was about making sure everyone's connected, because when everyone's connected, the entire economy works much better. We're finding out that's absolutely critical. So I applaud whenever we can find a space, especially like a school, that we can all sort of get together and make sure that they're connected.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Daniel, do tell, why did NYC MESH speak to you? What drew you to NYC MESH?
Well, so to keep a long story short, maybe you want to, So to keep a long story short, basically, I was myself looking for an internet provider, as I've been in remote learning for a couple of years now as a result of the pandemic. And in the summer of 2022, I had actually gotten disconnected from my cable provider, who shall not be named, probably. And
which year was that again? You're in the future there for a second.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, I didn't actually have internet. It got cut off because a bus hit the electrical pole outside of my house.
What?
Here in Ridgewood, we have electrical poles on the street, and a bus hit it, knocked out my internet for like 2 weeks. So in searching for other providers, I couldn't afford fiber optic. And so I actually found NYC Mesh, and the fact that they had the instructions how to do it yourself on the website, I was actually able to order everything online off the internet at like regular places, shopping like Amazon, and do the installation myself by just strapping it onto some random pole that was on my roof.
Wow.
And I was connected. It took me longer than 4 hours because I did not know what I was doing. But actually, the instructions were very clear. I was just skeptical. I was like, oh, I'm only going to do this here. I'm going to only, I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, this is like, I don't mind spending, $100 or so just to test it. But it was like, oh, it was taking longer because I didn't fully believe in it until it actually connected. I could not believe it. It's like, no, this is not possible. There's no way any of this could exist. But it's true, that was around July. And, at that point, I was enjoying my nice internet and I was chilling. All was well. Around October, they were having a meetup, like a training session, how to crimp the connectors on cables, to to do installations yourself. And that was actually where I met Ian. That was in the beginning of October. So we went down. The meetup was being held outside at Fort Greene Park. And I went down there and I saw just a bunch of people from different trades. Not a lot of techie people, which I think is a good thing for a community to have a wide, diverse spread of foci in like how people interact. It's better not to have just a room of techie people. It's better to have a more diverse group of, musicians, artists, people who working on writing or other proposals, like Ian is a lawyer. And meeting that group of people at Fort Greene Park made me really get into it's like, wow, this is a really interesting opportunity. And now I want everybody I know to have it. That was my drive. Like, it's like everyone should have access to it because I have access to it and it's awesome. So for that, I mean, I do mesh for a lot of different reasons, but that is a big one. It's just that I want to share what I have because it's such a great opportunity. So that's why I do my volunteer.
Nice. And Brian, from the beginning, was your vision always to have, let's say, volunteers to push the mission forward?
It's 7 years ago when we first got started, and the motivation at the time was everyone hated Time Warner Cable, which is now called Spectrum. Like, there was just such hatred for it, and it gave us all this energy. We got to do proper internet, and here we are now, and we're doing it. And I wanted to talk a bit about working with the city. Like, I want to work with the city from the beginning, and I always, just looking at these NYCHA buildings, saying, this is perfect for us. We get to connect people that aren't connected, and we can hop from one NYCHA building to the next. And we finally started to work with the city last year, and we've got a lot of fans in the city, and there's been difficulties. We spent a year negotiating to do one building, and then we spent 2 weeks actually doing it. Like, a year of organizing paperwork for 2 weeks of work, and it's not the people. It's the structure of the bureaucracy which slows things down. So.
I can even speak from my own standpoint in terms of one of the programs that we actually have in terms of doing it in a NYCHA building. The bureaucracy is endless. And as you said, the timeline that you laid out, about 2 years, that's about right.
And it's very hard for, we do this because it's enjoyable, and it's really not enjoyable to spend a year doing paperwork. So a few people dropped off that project, and it's been hard to keep momentum going with NYCHA. We're getting there, but that's been our struggle with the city.
Oh man! So Clayton, what about you? You have any nightmare NYCHA experiences?
We all experience the exact same thing. It's absolutely true what Brian just articulated, and we don't probably talk about it much enough because we don't want to piss the city off. But at the end of the day, it's all the work isn't as crazy as it can be with the paperwork. So there's a lot to there, and I think the government knows that. They want to streamline it a little better, but there's a lot of risk here. There's a lot of back of the office type of stuff. For example, there are people that are serving primarily between the incumbents, right? Verizon and Spectrum Charter. So you got to be careful how you bring in more providers when you already have these people that have franchises. They already have invested in the city, and all of a sudden you're introducing a little bit more competition. So the city is being deliberate on how that comes out so that everyone can benefit, and we don't need to have lawsuits and all this other stuff. As a result, it takes a long time to get through it. All the paperwork, as Brian mentioned, it's complicated. It really is, and you want to do your best work, But when it takes this long, you're going to find, some of your folks that are working with you are going to have to move on. You've got to really try to figure it. And this stuff is, capital intensive in a lot of ways. So the good news is that, there is a plan, there is a process. We are all doing some sort of deployment and getting some things done. We probably can get it done a lot faster, but it is getting done, and it's being done in the right way. So I'm happy that the city is at least 100% committed.
So what would you say in terms of, let's say, with the Adams administration, what would be, briefly tell me, let's say, a wish list? What would you like to see that administration embrace as it relates to broadband access or technology in general for underserved communities?
Well, I'll go first. And I'll just quickly say that what we have going on right now is very important, that the city has put aside close to $160 million to ensure that specifically targeting areas where the internet has not been as saturated. So you're talking about public housing and affordable housing, but particularly starting with public housing. So my hope is that the Adams administration doubles down on it and continues to keep the resources available so that we can accelerate. We have to be ready for the next future, right? As we start to make sure everyone's connected. And I believe, like I said, I'm very clear we can get that done. The question becomes what happens after everyone's connected. So there's a whole new level that Adams is going to have an opportunity to take advantage of. Once everyone's connected, we can go a whole nother level as people. So yes, I believe the Adams administration has one of the greatest moments in our history. Doubled down on the resources that are needed to be future ready. Help more and more of our families to get the kind of digital literacy that we all need to get. And it makes the city of New York, the greatest city in the world, will really live up to that title.
Beautiful, beautiful. Ian.
It's like an opportunity, like Clayton was saying, when radio and television were introduced. There's this, and then what flows from that is upskilling the community and the businesses that grow from it, and the educational opportunities, and just all the things that the internet promised. When it came about in the 80s and early 90s, it's there's an opportunity for New York to ride that wave, and it's good to hear that the government is responding to some extent. Of course, it's never quick enough, right? And that's why you get grassroots groups like Brian. Originally put up an antenna on I think it wasn't over a pub in the Lower East Side, Brian, and now we're I think up to over 1,000 people.
Yeah, it was from my window to my local bar. There's some friends that.
Very important.
Yeah, I would meet with friends there, and there was no Wi-Fi in the garden out the back, so I fixed that. You've got to be practical. It's kind of. I'm originally from Australia. It's a very Australian thing to do.
Exactly. I thought that was a Brooklyn accent, but apparently not. Okay, gotcha. So.
You don't have to be Australian to join NYC between Brian and me.
Well, I did notice in NYC MESH in terms of the real cluster of antennas and your devices are primarily in Brooklyn, Queens. Is that correct?
No, it started downtown Manhattan because that's where I live, and so we've got a huge presence in the Lower East Side, Chinatown, Alphabet City, and East Village, and then we got a supernode in Industry City, so we spread out from Brooklyn as well.
Okay. What's it been like? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ian.
And thanks to you, Curtis, we're starting to put nodes into Harlem, and we'll be able to roll out there pretty soon. Okay.
And Clayton, tell me about what's happening at CCNY in terms of the relationship with Dr. Boudreaux there. Do tell.
Well, I think City College is one of the iconic universities of our country, one of the most diverse universities, particularly the unique nature that it's in Harlem. And when you look at Harlem, a lot of people don't realize there's 14 colleges in Harlem. Hello, that's
Wow.
more than
Wow.
most states. And two of them arguably Ivy Leagues. So you're looking at an academic boom here in Upper Manhattan, and City College is one of the leading universities in that way, including embracing technology and doing it in a variety of ways. We're putting stuff on the campus. NYC MESH is putting stuff on the campus. Everyone's flooding into City College because they're embracing it. And as a result, they're going to be one of those leading universities where more and more students will understand that's the kind of infrastructure we're going to need if we're going to become, inventors or innovation driven or any other technology that one would imagine. So City College is going to be a hub in a lot of ways. They're already building out Congressman Rangel's library, and all that's coming onto that campus. And our president, Dr. Vince Boudreau, has been absolutely clear on being, like, I keep using the same term, future ready. So we're right now working with them on a bunch of tech enabled devices and things of that nature to really sort of start thinking about air quality, environment, all these type of things. The connectivity is not going to be an issue. They just got more and more fiber into their campus. So I think they're set up to be one of the greatest universities in this country. And I'm so proud to be, just partners with them. And I'm glad that all of us are doing some things on that campus. And, just listening on this call where you're hearing a lot of focus on things like Upper Manhattan. That's great. We didn't always have that attention. And so we feel, no, I'm serious, right? We're very well known for our food and music and culture, but you didn't hear a lot of technology back in the day. So it's nice to see. I always had to go downtown for a meetup, for example. We had no meetups in Harlem. I was always going downtown to meetups. Now we're starting to see more and more of us, looking at Harlem as a tech hub, which we feel very proud that we're very proud that we helped build that. And it's good to hear people say, hey, we're doing something in Harlem too. That's wonderful. I embrace it wholeheartedly. And so does Dr. Vince Boudreau.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Now, there's also, the pandemic also showed us some really big sea changes in terms of remote working. So many companies, immediately shifted towards some sort of remote working. And we've also seen that now we have the rise of what is now being called the creator economy. So it's really the impact we're seeing, which is perfect for Harlem, is the confluence of technology and culture and information now combined, which creates a whole new set of economies. And we see some of the divides in terms of some of the people who work for Fortune 500 companies who are immediately able to shift to a work at home environment. But now we're seeing, it's becoming, as you said, the new normal. I'm talking to, some of the younger folks in my family, and I have a goddaughter who's now living in Austin, working for Expedia, and she's able to pick where she wants to live and work and keep the same job. And so we're seeing some really interesting developments in terms of the economy and how it impacts. And I think that the work that your organizations are doing is really just in the nick of time, because it really plays to the strengths of our community when we're able to take these resources and now, use them to create sustainable incomes and wealth and just connection with the world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I guess I want someone to weigh in, because I certainly do know about the tech giants. And Clayton, you said it best. Have the tech giants like the Googles, the Facebook, have they put investments in underserved communities like Harlem, Bedford-Stuyvesant, East New York, so forth? Anyone?
Well, from my perspective, they have,
Okay.
they're coming from a corporate perspective, obviously. So what they present, hopefully on their side, they're always trying to put a business model about it. So they're not trying to not trying to be nice about it, but they are making an impact because they have the kind of money to do that. We recently hooked up with Facebook, for example, and they created a program where we could teach kids how to code by using beats, right? Becoming DJs. So we just did that. We've been working that project on various high schools. And as Bob was articulating, it's really important that we are looking at what this remote world looks like when we have this hybrid of both working in an office or out of an office. And for some of us, like myself, I've been remote for a long time, doing jobs all over the world. And in some cases, major projects with lots of money behind them and never shaking the hand of the person I'm doing business with. So I'm drinking a daiquiri at the Dominican Republic and they're wiring me money. So that is going to continue. We're going to have hybrid.
Oh, you mean the daiquiri drinking is going to continue, or
that's going to continue too, brother? But the idea of some of us knowing how we're getting more and more comfortable working remotely, there's new opportunities that will come from that. The challenge is right now, and one of the things that we hear more and more, especially in the business of telecommunications, we hear so much about what we call the supply chain. And you're hearing that across all industries right now. There's a supply chain issue. Well, the real supply chain right now is people. Companies can't get people anymore because they're like, wait a minute, do I have to come to the office? So, right now the power is in the hand of our people. And the question is, how do we create that next normal where people are comfortable and companies are comfortable? So the big guys like Amazon and Google and all these great companies, they're starting to pitch people that say, hey, listen, you don't have to come here every day. You don't have to do this. And we'll set you up with a studio inside your home. So these are the things we're going to have to start to adopt as it comes down to the local businesses, which haven't got that kind of resources. We have to figure out how does that work, right? Because the real economy is depending upon our small business owners. They hire a lot of people. They do a lot of work. So that's the challenge we have. And I've got some ideas on how to do it, but I'll reveal that on our next call.
Done. So Daniel, do tell me, is your background tech?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much. I mean, my current work is actually working with politicians in Central Brooklyn. So that is what I do. My primary employment. But I am going to school for computer engineering as well, as it's mostly been a self-taught thing, networking and computers, coding, things like that. Most of my knowledge has been self-taught. So it's generally been my experience and background doing these things like this. Gotcha.
What about you, Brian?
I was a recording engineer years ago. Then I drifted into programming, and then I started doing this. The thing about the mesh is everyone learns stuff when they're here, and everyone teaches each other, and so you don't need a networking background to join the mesh. I knew nothing. I knew nothing about networking when I got the project going. I had to learn everything on the job.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, when I saw Ian joining, I said, like, "Whoa, what's happening here?" Because I know
if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly.
Well, I'm really I'm gratified to see someone like Brian, who's got a little gray there in the beard, being able to learn new things, because I think one of the biggest challenges we have in terms of this new environment is that some of us who are a little longer in the tooth, shall we say, we have to commit to relearning, and there's a lot of new tools and new information, but it requires us to learn a little bit more. And I've found for myself personally that the last 5 years or so. And I've been around the internet since the early days, but I found that I had to recommit to learning because the technology is changing so fast that if you're not on a kind of a self-development kick in terms of what you need to know to be able to exist in this new era, that you can get left behind. And I think that's one of the issues of digital divide is just the transfer of knowledge in terms of what actually works now and how are things connected, and then how do we create opportunities out of that connection. So I'm very gratified to see certainly Daniel is the future, but some of us, we're still the present. So we've got to commit to understanding how this all works.
Absolutely. And you know what? I got to give a Silicon Harlem, Clayton, I got to give you some props, because I remember when you were actually conducting a cohort at the state office building for seniors, teaching them. Yeah,
We've done it, and we do it every year, and I'm going to do it right now with you old people, which is I'm going to demystify one quick thing. When you talk about technology, I want you to think of it as tools. They are not the end of anything. They're just the tools. It still comes down to, do you have a thirst for innovation? If you have a thirst for ideas, if you have a thirst for just having conversation, technology is just the tools to help you get that done. So it's no longer a thing where you gotta, you just heard Daniel was, hey, I'm self-taught. Brian, self-taught. Clayton Banks, self-taught. We're all self-taught because it's a necessity, right? But at the end of the day, what I figured out is that technology in of itself is nothing. It's about the tools you need to get something done. There was a time when we walked everywhere. Then all of a sudden we rode a horse. Then we started with wagons, and all of a sudden there's a car. There's going to be something in the future that'll be driverless. So things will always progress, but they're just tools to do the very fundamental things that people do on Earth, point A to point B. So think of it that way, as I share with so many people, and it becomes a little bit more easier. One last little thing I'll say is think about coding. To that point you made, Curtis. Coding. So I am sitting in front of these seniors, Bob, and I'm talking about coding, and obviously it's going right over everybody's head. But when I said, who in here has ever made a cake? Oh, everybody raises their hand. I said, do you, go to the store and buy a box? Hell no, man. What are you talking about? We build these cakes from scratch. And I was giving them the point was, well, when you have all that stuff out on the counter and you're putting it all together, it looks like a mess. But once you put it in the oven and comes out looking so beautiful, that's the exact same way an internet website looks like. It's a big mess at the beginning, but once you put it all together, it looks like something. They got it. They're like, whoa. Wow. So we can't leave behind, to your point, Bob, that wisdom, that intelligence. We can't lose that. We need them in the game. So that's what we're doing.
Nice. I got to say something too. So I'm going to lay out this word. So this particular person, he is an attorney by training. He's actually been on Soul Lounge Primetime in another iteration. He was actually talking about a nonprofit that he had started called Dream Chasers, helping people from underserved communities compete for the specialized high schools, right? And that, of course, is Jason Clark, who has now been appointed as the executive director of NYC Tech. So do tell, any thoughts on that appointment?
Well, from my perspective, it's a congratulations. Okay. I think it's great. There's a lot of work to be done. That organization in and of itself has been in the ecosystem of technology for New York City. Julie Samuels is a good friend of mine who used to run it, and she did a terrific job of really focusing in on, ensuring that technology is at the forefront of our electives and certainly from our communities. And I think he has a great opportunity. Again, like I said, anyone who's ponying up right now, you're in the greatest era that we're going to have in our lifetime. and it's going to be on our side to whether we make it happen or not. And it's that great opportunity where an African American guy like this will, like the rest of us on this call, have an opportunity to go, like some people can do in New York City right now. They can look at the Verrazano Bridge and go, my grandfather helped make that bridge. That's where we are now. We're about to create brand new bridges, brand new roads, brand new streets, and brand new opportunities. And we'll be able, and our grandchildren and great grandchildren will be able to say, my grandfather did that, and so there's an inspiration and aspiration to make that happen. So when you see somebody get that job that has a lot of influence on the infrastructure of this city, I congratulate and support as much as I can.
Beautiful. And Clayton, if you can you break down, or someone break down the difference between, let's say, Do It and NYC Tech? I know they're different, but explain those differences, man.
Well, Do It obviously is a government agency of the city, and the new thing about that is there's another African American male that's becoming the CTO of New York City, and what the Adams administration has done has pulled not only the mayor's office of technology under the CTO, but also Do It. So Do It is coming. That has never been done before. So this is a big move to have Do It. And there's a couple other agencies that are going to now report to the CTO. So Matt Frazier, who came out of the NYPD, is definitely got a huge job.
Wow.
So NYC Tech is a nonprofit organization that sort of creates a lot of, I think, just ideas for the city to work on, and galvanizes the communities and things of that nature, similar to what we all do on this call. But what you're talking about when it comes to Do It and the MOCTO and the mayor's office, that all is coming under a brother named Matt Frazier. And that's big. It's huge.
Nice.
Good. Well, now we'll get it to move faster. Which will be good.
I want to jump in.
Clayton makes a lot of sense. It's like and it goes beyond just technology, like you were saying earlier. It's like climate change. People aren't commuting, driving their car an hour each way back and forth to some office that's going to be air conditioned and heated, etc. It's when people look back on this, it's leveling the playing field. It's opening up opportunities. It's so many other aspects of community. People are working from home. They walk outside and have lunch and go to a cafe, meet people. It's there's a local aspect to this, and there's a global, like, climate change aspect to it, and everything in between.
Nice.
I'm even seeing people operate from their cars, where they're doing live streams from their car. I did a Zoom with a guy last week, and he's literally doing meetings from his truck. I mean, that's the era that we live in. I mean, even us right now, 2 years ago, we did our radio show from the studio. Now we're omni-channel, and we're live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and live on the radio, all at the same time. Yeah. So it's a brave new operation, a new world. I want to jump in and just talk about
doing anything in your car is a New York thing. That's not across the country.
That's not a New York it's not a New York thing. This guy was down south in his truck and doing Zoom. So
he was from New York.
He wasn't from New York. Sorry, the evidence suggests otherwise. Everybody is taking advantage of this stuff. I want to talk about some community projects that fit in well with what you guys are doing. I'm a co-founder of Harlem Emergency Network, and we've been working for a couple of years with both New York City Emergency Management, and we're currently working with WEACT and the East Harlem COAD on how we can put our community resources online to use for emergency response. So we're actually having this on Thursday, January 27th. We're doing an extreme weather disaster community meeting, and it's going to be virtual on Zoom. And we're going to talk about extreme heat and extreme cold, scenarios and how we as a community respond to it. And at the end of that, we'll be talking a little bit about our online community resource database, where we're going to be able to have, live information in terms of resources that different players in the community can access during an emergency. And it's something that really dovetails well with mesh networks and expanded broadband, because those are the things that we need to be able to connect people during a disaster and have it be community driven, not driven from the city's EOC, which is a great resource, but does not necessarily have all the community information that we need to be able to respond appropriately. So I just wanted to make that information available.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show you how many players are in this field, coming from whether it's community-driven projects like NYC MESH, or that comes from a need to serve the community, such as Silicon Harlem and these other groups. It's really a point that this is not only it's these grassroots organizations are taking a hold in this community. It's important to say, it's like, this is why the need is there. And, and sort of something that I've learned over the past couple of years is that we have a need to really put our resources together, and we all want the same things. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important, I think this has been mentioned, but it's also important. It's like, if we want to connect everybody, it doesn't matter how it's done as long as everyone's connected, but we also have to work together to make it happen. There's a lot of opportunities that can be missed by parallel efforts that are not necessarily going in step, which then leads to duplicated efforts and areas missed in some places. If we all work together at this, I think that we can really make a much more quicker impact that'll help people, especially coming out of this pandemic and into this permanent world of remote work and learning. We need to band together to make this happen.
Great. Now, Clayton, we want to give you a chance to I think you have an announcement that you want to make.
Well, I am, and I'm going to have to jump off the call, unfortunately, but I will say that if there's anything I would ask all of you to save the date, would be 2. All right, listen, if you don't remember this, there's something wrong with you. So
my birthday.
So 2.
It's my birthday that day.
Oh, wow.
Is it 2/22?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then you definitely can't forget it. So 2/22/22 at 2. And by the way, Brian, it's a Tuesday. So we're trying to get the mayor to come out. We're opening up the first Gigabit Innovation Center for Manhattan, which means that we've been able to pull in the fiber capability. The city has really designated our space to be this, provide this for the community. And we're very proud. We're doing a lot of retrofits in our office right now. So on 2/22/22 at 2, we would love for any of you to come up and check it out. Won't be long, just a quick thing. Happy birthday to Brian and all that kind of stuff. So, but we think it's a real milestone. We've been negotiating this with the city for 6 years. So when you say it takes a year to do stuff, no, this one took 6 years. So that's the bureaucracy of it. But anyway, but we're now there and we're very excited. You got to come check it out. It's going to be a cool experience. I'll make sure that we send stuff over to everybody. But that's a good thing.
Excellent.
Although on a conclusion from my perspective, I think this was just a great conversation, Curtis and Bob. So happy that you guys continue to push our communities across the board on things like connectivity and technology. That's not the easiest topic to have. So I'm thrilled that you give us geeks that moment. And we hope that it will make a difference moving forward. You guys are doing a great job. And Bob, I get to see Bob a lot because he now is part of our co-working space. So he's become sort of the go-to guy in the office. Everybody wants to talk to Bob. He's like, you know, he's got that wisdom. I'm not gonna call you old anymore, man. You're just you got that good wisdom.
I'm not old, but there are people my age who are old, but I'm not one of them.
I know that's right. No, you're right about that, buddy.
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you, and I really, Ian, it's good to talk to you again. Last time we talked, we had a good talk. And Brian, my good friend for 7 years. I've been with him since the beginning. And
nice.
and Daniel, you got that great energy and certainly that drive that I think is going to keep us all feeling really good about the legacy that goes on. So thank you, guys. I've actually been awarded, or I should say honored, to serve on a FCC committee, and I got to jump on that meeting right now.
That's great. No problem.
Clayton, thank you, my brother. Thank you for coming through, man. Excellent. All right.
So we just have a couple of last things we want to ask you guys. We're about to wrap up. So Brian, I want to ask, if people want to get involved with NYC MESH, how can you give us some basic information?
Yeah, we actually organize everything over Slack.
Okay.
It's a chat application. It's so important to us. I don't think we'd exist without it. And it's very easy to join. It's slack.nycmesh.net, and anyone can join. And you'll see everything we're doing there, basically.
Nice.
So slack.nycmesh.net.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
So
I had a couple of points before we wrap up.
Please.
You're talking about emergency information and stuff. That our network works without the internet. Even if parts are disconnected, you can still talk to other people on the network. So it's very good for that.
No, I'm very aware of that, and I'm over the moon that we had a chance to have this conversation, and I promise you I will be following up with you.
And he's been wanting to meet you for a while, even though he did meet you when we rode our bikes together. So, but anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
So we're due to meet uptown soon, Curtis. We might have to bring Bob along. Bob has to bake a cake, though. That's his job in all of this.
I'm good with that. You know, although my culinary skills, I wouldn't say baking is my strong point, but I'm willing to take a shot at it. But I'm more interested in seeing how I can do an NYC MESH node, and I want to learn a little bit more about that and see if I can join in. Daniel has inspired me.
Maybe I'll see you on your roof. And
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll come and help.
Yeah. Nice. So we've been on Soul Lounge Primetime, live on WHCR 90.3 FM, live on Facebook and YouTube. We've had some great conversation about technology and how we use it to enable all to have better lives. We want to thank everyone who joined us today: Daniel, Ian, Brian, and Clayton Banks. And please, if you're on any of those channels, like, subscribe, share the information, and stay well, everybody.
All right. Thank you, guys.